At dawn, before the sun had decided where to rise, a lone traveler paused at the edge of a wide plain. Birds hovered in the quiet air, and the ground beneath his boots felt firm with history. The traveler did not know it yet, but this moment, this stillness, was the opening scene of a much larger story, about how lives are shaped, step by step, choice by choice. Once, a traveler named Leo stood at a vast crossroads where 1,000 golden paths stretched toward the horizon. Each path shimmered with promise and risk. As Leo looked down, he realized that where he stood today, the boots on his feet, the map in his hand, and the courage in his heart, was the total sum of every choice he had ever made in his life. Nothing had appeared by magic. Every habit, every fear, and every strength had been built slowly through decisions, small and large. He understood that deciding is not just a thought floating in the head, but a skill that shows itself in actions, reactions, and patterns of behavior. Just like learning to play a beautiful melody on a flute or planning moves on a chessboard, each person develops a unique style of choosing. With time and practice, the 100th decision becomes calmer, sharper, and wiser than the very first one. Inside the hidden theater of the human mind, two helpers work side by side to guide these choices, a partnership known as the dual process model. The first helper moves like a fast lizard, often called System 1. It jumps into action with quick, intuitive choices without using words or careful thought. It helps with everyday actions, choosing a favorite ice cream flavor, catching a falling glass, or steering a bicycle away from a pedal. This helper is incredibly fast and uses very little energy, managing routines like breathing, walking, or driving a familiar road while the mind drifts elsewhere. The second helper is slower and calmer, like a wise owl known as System 2. It uses logic and careful words to solve hard problems, such as choosing a new home, planning a long journey, or solving a difficult math puzzle. While the lizard is always alert, the owl only spreads its wings when something unexpected happens, forcing the mind to slow down, leave autopilot, and think with care. To choose the right path, a traveler must first learn how to see clearly through the fog. This begins by asking clear and specific questions. Many people struggle not because their problems are too hard, but because their questions are too vague. Saying, "I want to be successful," is like pointing at the horizon without naming a direction. A well-defined problem already contains much of its solution. When thoughts are written down with details, names, times, limits, and goals, the mind starts to organize itself. Yet many people are afraid of being clear because clarity closes doors. Without focus, however, the mind stays stuck in a gray space where everything is possible and nothing moves forward. Along the road, invisible traps wait quietly. These traps are known as cognitive biases, and they shape thinking without asking permission. One common trap is availability bias, which tricks the mind into believing that the most recent story or loudest news is the most important, even if years of experience says otherwise. Another trap is anchoring, where the first number or idea heard becomes heavy like an anchor, pulling all future thoughts toward it. To escape these traps, the wisest travelers do something brave. They ask for help from people who think differently. When a scientist listens to an artist, or a doctor asks advice from a baker, fresh perspectives appear. Different eyes notice paths that others miss. Beyond logic and caution lies the bright, unpredictable land of creativity. Creativity is like a magical kitchen where no great meal can be cooked with just one ingredient. To create something new, a person must collect many different materials, stories from books, patterns from nature, ideas from art, and knowledge from fields that seem unrelated. Creativity also demands courage, the courage to experiment, to fail, and to try again. Most great achievements are built on long lists of attempts that did not work. A positive and hopeful mind can imagine many paths forward, while a fearful or tired mind often sees only a single narrow exit. In the end, choosing is the quiet force that shapes identity and future alike. It is a great challenge, especially when choices carry moral weight. Imagine a railway guard faced with an ethical decision, knowing that every option carries harm. In such moments, a good decision is not defined by a perfect result, because outcomes are not always kind. Instead, a good decision is one made through a correct and thoughtful process, guided by values, care, and responsibility. When people are given the freedom to choose, they feel stronger and less burdened, because choice turns suffering into meaning and effort into purpose. Every decision becomes a brushstroke on the wide canvas of existence, slowly transforming empty space into a living picture. If a life is truly shaped by the choices made along the way, then when the road finally narrows and the horizon draws near, will the traveler see a story shaped by intention or a path chosen by silence and chance?